And now he's live at the White House. Lucas, what more can you tell us?
Well, Arthel, this is the deadliest attack on American forces in the Middle East since the October 7th Hamas massacre. As you mentioned last night, a drone strike killed 3 U.S. troops and wounded 25 at a base in northeast Jordan near the border with Syria. That's according to the White House. President Biden releasing a statement moments ago which says, quote, "While we are still gathering the facts of the attack, we know it was carried out by radical Iran-backed militant groups operating in Syria and Iraq. Jill and I join the families and friends of our fallen and Americans across the country in grieving the loss of these warriors in this despicable and wholly unjust attack." Now, there have been now over 159 attacks on U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria, and now Jordan over the past 3 months. The U.S. has responded with airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, but the bulk have been in Yemen since the beginning of the month. There have been increasing calls, as you mentioned, Eric, for the U.S. to strike back much harder. U.S. warships continue shooting down drones and missiles from Iran's proxy forces off the coast of Yemen. There have also been calls for the U.S. to strike the source, and that's inside Iran. The names of those fallen has not been released yet, subject to next of kin notifications. Eric and Arthel.
All right, Lucas Tomlinson, thank you very much, live at the White House. And right now joining us on the phone is Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin. Jennifer, any word from the Pentagon?
Well, Arthel, we have received a notification from CENTCOM, a statement in which they confirm the deaths of those 3 U.S. troops. But I'm also hearing reports that up to 25 Americans may have been injured in that attack on the base in northern Jordan. This is a very significant escalation, as Lucas reported. This is bound to test not only the White House, but also U.S. Central Command. We know that there has been a great deal of frustration among top senior U.S. military officials, thinking that that the U.S. needed to strike back harder against Iran, that Iran was not getting the deterrent message. As Lucas mentioned, there have been 159 attacks on almost daily on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria and now Jordan. It was only a matter of time before some of those drones, one-way attack drones that Iran has provided to its proxies, got through. You saw just last Saturday that there were 17 ballistic missiles fired at Al-Assad Air Base, where 2,500 U.S. troops are based inside Iraq. Talks with the Iraqi government have begun this week about the future of U.S. troops inside Iraq. It is clear that Iran has unleashed all of its proxies against U.S. bases and U.S. forces, as well as the Houthis firing on ships in the the Red Sea, because they are trying to push the U.S. out of the Middle East. Iran believes that with enough pressure from these proxy groups, and they are willing to sacrifice these proxy groups, and the U.S. so far has drawn a line at striking inside Iran or taking out any significant targets that Iran would be concerned about, because they're concerned about spreading the conflict. And so the goal of the administration since October 7th is to not spread the conflict, but these daily attacks on shipping. You saw yesterday the MV Marlin Luanda had been struck by an anti-ship missile and was on fire until the USS Carney and a French frigate put out that fire. Very, very significant escalation today with the confirmed deaths of at least 3 American troops in northern Jordan. Arthel?
Yeah, of course, Jennifer, a lot at stake here, not to mention the lives of our service members. Are we expecting a forceful response in short order?
Well, I know from conversations that I've been having in recent weeks that there's a very significant plan that could be activated to target Iranian targets and Iranian proxy targets. The question is, usually what you see in this case is that the U.S. military will wait for a time and place of its choosing to carry out those strikes. But there's going to be tremendous pressure on the administration to escalate and to respond forcefully to end these attacks on U.S. forces, because clearly Tehran is not getting the message. And with these daily attacks using the proxy forces, very thinly veiled, none of these proxy forces would be able to strike without the significant help from Iran.
And they're saying the reason for this is they want Israel out of Gaza. But you have Netanyahu saying that this war will continue. His military response will continue. So how do those two things work out in this very precarious scenario?
Well, you really need to de-link the Gaza conflict, which is between Israel and Hamas, and is taking place in Gaza. What Iran has done now, Iran has supported Hamas for years, and Iran certainly is the hidden hand, and Hamas never would have had the firepower or the training or the ability to strike Israel without the support of Iran. But separately, Iranian proxies are focusing on U.S. forces because it has nothing to do what's going on with Israel and what is happening in the Gaza Strip, though they are using that as a pretense for attacking U.S. troops. Iran has wanted to push U.S. forces